Hi, everyone. Welcome back to NVI's YouTube channel and our Spotlight series. My name is Paige, and I am partnering with Nimesh and Kate to interview nonviolent advocates for this series. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Kent Wong. Kent is the director of the UCLA Labor Center, where he teaches courses in labor studies and Asian American studies. He is also the founding president of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance in the United Association for Labor Education. He currently serves as the vice president of the California Federation for Teachers and has also contributed to the book Revolutionary Nonviolence, Organizing for Freedom. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Kent. Is there anything you would like to add to your introduction and or maybe expand further on your advocacy?
Great to be with you, Paige. I'm glad you cited the work of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance because May 1st marked our 30th anniversary. And so we are quite excited that the very first Asian American organization within the US labor movement just hit 30 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Great.
For the past 20 years, I've had the privilege of teaching a class on nonviolence at UCLA with Reverend James Lawson, Jr. And it has been one of the highlights of my career, and it has enabled us to more thoroughly and deeply integrate the teachings of nonviolence, not only to our teaching curriculum here at the UCLA Labor Center, but indeed to infuse the philosophy of nonviolence in all of the activities and projects that we work on here at the Labor Center.
Great, and thank you for that introduction of your work with Reverend Lawson. Kind of going off of that, talking about revolutionary nonviolence, this book does a really excellent job of recounting a long history of nonviolent philosophy through his teachings. And I was wondering if you could share, for those who don't know, a little bit about Lawson's philosophy. And I know in that book, you provided some specific reflection on some of the speeches and talks that he gave. So if you could also give your perspective on it.
Reverend James Lawson, Jr., who is 93 years old, has played an extraordinary transformational role in not only the freedom struggles from the 1960s and 70s, but also in his continuing work to advance nonviolence and social justice in his work over many decades here in Los Angeles. Reverend Lawson was an influential force through his partnership with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and both were good friends and worked very closely together on major campaigns that utilize the power of nonviolence to challenge Jim Crow and segregation and to advance a comprehensive movement that changed the direction of US history. So Reverend Lawson spearheaded the Nashville sit-in movement in 1959 and 1960 that led to a whole wave of sit-ins throughout the South, using the power of nonviolence to challenge segregation. He was also a leader of the Freedom Rides. He was a leader of the campaigns in the South that helped to register Black voters, to establish freedom schools where they were able to teach members of the Black community about the power of nonviolence and about the necessity of engaging in direct action to make change. And he was also a leader of the Memphis sanitation workers' strike of 1968, where tragically Dr. King was assassinated back on April 4th, 1968. What is less known about Reverend Lawson is the extraordinary work that he has done here in Los Angeles in infusing the power of nonviolence in leading the transformation of the Los Angeles labor movement, beginning with the Hotel Workers Union and the Justice for Janitors Union, but it has had a profound impact on revitalizing the Los Angeles labor movement and embracing what we term social justice unionism.
Great, thank you for that overview. And so kind of going off of these, you've touched on it a little bit about when talking about it. I know you teach labor courses at the UCLA Labor Center, but what role, can you go further into the role that nonviolence has played in labor unions or securing workers' rights?
So this is a critical issue today because we are now into the third year of the pandemic. And the pandemic in this country has exposed the horrendous class and racial disparities that exist throughout the country. We have a situation where essential workers have been on the front lines during the pandemic, providing critically needed services for the public, and yet they have been treated anything but essential. And we have a situation where billionaires have been making billions in profits, where there is a private space race being led by corporate leaders, while at the same time, the workers who have created that wealth are dying on the job because of unsafe working conditions. So this is a crisis that we face within the workplace, and it is critical for workers to have the basic right to form and join unions and to organize for rights on the job. Reverend Lawson, throughout his career, has been at the forefront of using the power of nonviolence to transform the labor movement and to create stronger labor and community partnerships that have embraced a very progressive vision for the future.
Thank you. And yeah, I can see even more, I feel like, with talks about unionizing in Starbucks and some other big corporations, that this issue becomes more and more prevalent in discussions around, defending workers' rights and securing them has become much larger in media. Has historically these kind of nonviolent movements for labor unions that give representation and defend workers' rights, how has that been also for non-white individuals? I know you mentioned as part of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance that you're one of the only Asian American organizations, or one of the first to really go in and defend and represent Asian Americans in the workforce. So how do these nonviolent movements or these labor unions really serve non-white individuals?
So the reality is that Reverend Lawson uses the term plantation capitalism to describe the particular nature of US capitalism that was founded and built off the slave system, and has thrived in large part based on white supremacy and racial inequities. And so we see that there has been a long tradition in this country of not only the enslavement of Black people, who provided a foundation for the economy throughout the South, and that in the formative years of this country, that so much of the economy was based on slave labor. We've seen a continuing pattern of exploitation and abuse of other workers of color, whether they are from Mexico and Latin America or from the Asia Pacific region, and where workers of color have faced job discrimination, job segregation, and have been locked into low-wage jobs with poor working conditions and very little opportunities for advancement. And so through our work with the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, we have done a lot to try to recruit and train a new generation of Asian American union organizers, and to focus on developing labor and community partnerships to improve the lives and to improve the wages and to improve the working conditions of low-wage Asian American workers. So the power of nonviolence very much is manifest in the forming and joining of worker organizations, including unions. It is very much manifest in exercising the right to strike, the right for workers to withhold their labor when they're being subjected to unsafe conditions. The use of the boycott has a long tradition as a tool of nonviolence to withhold the economic purchasing power of workers in order to demand social justice and social change, as well as many other tactics from pilgrimages, hunger strikes, mass rallies, mass actions that are grounded in the philosophy of nonviolence. And so the work that we have done in the labor movement very much has both advanced the interests and the rights of working people, especially workers of color and immigrant workers, but it has also embraced the philosophy of nonviolence.
Great. And even some of the other organizations you're part of, especially the UCLA Labor Center, strives to, do more effort to provide jobs that are good for the community and opportunities for diverse leadership and opportunities for everyone to receive a quality education and to be able to receive a job that respects them. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the UCLA Labor Center does in this regard.
I want to start by saying that the building you see behind me, which is our headquarters, was just purchased and renamed the UCLA James Lawson Jr. Worker Justice Center. So we had a building dedication celebration in December of 2021 with Reverend Lawson and his entire family. And we were joined by hundreds of labor and community leaders who were overjoyed at the thought of having a permanent home, not only named in Reverend Lawson's honor, but dedicated to carry on the work of worker justice. The UCLA Labor Center was established back in 1964, and for decades has served as a critical link between the public university, which is here to serve the public, and the working people of Los Angeles and of California. So for example, the UCLA Labor Center helped to launch the very first Black Worker Center in the city of Los Angeles, which has now served as a model for 17 other Black worker centers around the country. We have been at the forefront of supporting the organizing of immigrant workers. And some of the most powerful union organizing campaigns of Los Angeles have been led by immigrant workers, whether it was the Justice for Janitors campaign, the hotel workers, the home care workers, or the car wash workers. And each and every one of these campaigns has shown both the power of immigrant worker organizing as well as the power of nonviolence. In addition, we have done considerable work to lift up a new generation of undocumented immigrant youth who number more than 2 million across the country. And although they were born in another country and brought here as children, fundamentally, they had no say over the land of their birth. And because of their immigration status, they are locked forever in a underclass within the United States. And so through our Dream Summer program, which is now entering its second decade, we have placed more than 800 undocumented immigrant youth activists with social justice organizations across the country. And the immigrant youth movement as well has drawn from the lessons of nonviolence in fighting for and securing immigration reform, including the passage of the California DREAM Act in the state of California, which has opened up unprecedented opportunities for undocumented students to enter higher education, as well as for pressing for the enactment of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, which has benefited 800,000 undocumented immigrant youth who no longer live under the daily fear of deportation and now have work authorization.
Thank you. And then just kind of reflecting on the ideas of Reverend Lawson and then the work of the various, but very important different organizations you're a part of. What ideas can current direct action and nonviolent movements take away from the history of nonviolence, Lawson's philosophy, and then also the current work that's being done here?
Let me share with you my beginnings in working with Reverend Lawson. I was staff attorney for the Service Employees International Union at a time when there was tremendous change and organizing of the new workforce. So when I was at SEIU here in Los Angeles, our union launched the Justice for Janitors campaign. We launched the Home Care Organizing campaign, which successfully unionized 74,000 home care workers in 1999 here in Los Angeles. And we're now more than 300,000 home care workers are under union contract in the state of California. This is the single largest organizing victory in decades in the country, and it has brought a new generation of women, people of color, immigrants, and low-wage workers into the US labor movement. But a lot of this work very much was inspired by the teachings of Reverend Lawson and about the philosophy of nonviolence. And so he partnered early on with the Hotel Workers Union here in Los Angeles, at that time led by Maria Elena Durazo, who is now a state senator and a leading advocate for worker rights in the California state legislature. But it was his work with Maria Elena Durazo that led to the transformation of the Hotel Workers Union, guided by the philosophy of nonviolence. It was his work with Mike Garcia, the legendary leader of the Justice for Janitors movement, that led about a wave of organizing and nonviolent strategies and tactics that successfully reorganized the janitorial industry. And so these two pivotal unions, the hotel workers and the janitors of Los Angeles, really spearheaded the transformation of the Los Angeles labor movement and had national repercussions. So this is actually a story that not enough people understand. And many people are more familiar with Reverend Lawson's work with Dr. King and his work in the South, but many are not aware of the profound impact that Reverend Lawson has had with the transformation of the Los Angeles labor movement through the use of nonviolence.
Thank you, Kent. And as we come to a close in this interview, do you have any remaining thoughts you'd like to share with our audience who are nonviolent supporters and advocates themselves?
I think that we should learn from Reverend Lawson, who has dedicated his life for future generations. And when he was working in Nashville, Tennessee, as a young pastor, he helped to develop leaders like John Lewis, like Diane Nash, like Bernard Lafayette. And these people played a transformational role collectively in launching the freedom struggles of the 1960s and 70s that shaped the course of US history. In his work here in Los Angeles, he worked with a number of emerging activists, including Senator Maria Elena Durazo, including Antonio Villaraigosa, who went on to become the first Latino mayor of Los Angeles in 150 years, including Karen Bass, who went on to lead the Congressional Black Caucus and is currently running for mayor of Los Angeles, including Gilbert Cedillo, who has served in the state legislature and now on the Los Angeles City Council. These are the individuals that Reverend Lawson has inspired and has taught the philosophy of nonviolence. And so the true strength of Reverend Lawson's work is found in the people that he has touched, the people that he has organized, the people that he has mobilized, and the people that he has influenced using the power of nonviolence. I will forever be indebted to Reverend Lawson for all that he has taught me, for the spiritual and moral guidance that he has provided to the UCLA Labor Center and to the broader labor movement of Los Angeles. So we are so proud to name the very first building in his honor, the UCLA James Lawson Jr. Worker Justice Center. And we are very committed to continue the work of Reverend Lawson through this building and through this institution for generations to come.
Thank you, Ken. It sounds like, while you, as you noted, most people know Reverend Lawson for his work with Martin Luther King Jr., but it sounds like he had such an incredible impact in Los Angeles as well, and continues to impact people who learn from his nonviolent philosophy and principles. And it's absolutely amazing to hear the connection that UCLA has to him, and how you've honored him by naming your first established building after him, not only keeping his legacy, but also furthering it by keeping conversations about his philosophy going, and continuing to spread nonviolent philosophy. So thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who took the time to watch my interview with Kent. If you want to learn more about him and the other great things he's a part of, as well as Reverend Lawson's work, please check out the links in the description. And thank you, Ken, for taking the time to have this important discussion with me. I wish you the best of luck with UCLA officially establishing its building. That's really incredible, and just everything else that you're a part of.
Thank you, Paige, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
If you think these conversations are important and would like to see them continue, please consider supporting NVI and the work we do by subscribing to this YouTube channel, following us on Twitter and Facebook, and visiting our website. Please consider donating to our organization and checking out our nonviolent training archive and database linked in the description. Every little bit counts to help build a more just and nonviolent world.